Do you want to bust your sales quota? Do you want to join the ranks of top 1% sellers? The Top 1% Sellers podcast gives you the insights and the tools to help you achieve your sales greatness. The podcast features sales and services professionals, leaders, and experts to give you the edge you're looking for. Here's your host, Ash Sadiq.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Top 1% Sellers Academy. Today's webinar is with Peter Meyers. Peter Meyers is the founder and president of the Stand and Deliver group. And I'm going to basically also kind of read you very briefly here a little bit of his bio as well. Peter is a communication consultant. He worked with leaders in politics, in business, in sports, and performing arts to achieve greater influence through the spoken word. He is a graduate of the University of Southern California. He lived and studied at the Zen Yoga Arts Institute in New York and trained as a performer with the late Stella Adler and Sanford Meisner at the Neighborhood Playhouse. He's the former artistic director of the award-winning Vector Theater Company in San Francisco. In founding Stand and Deliver Group, Peter synthesized his experience in sports, in theater, and high-performance psychology, connecting the three disciplines to develop Stand and Deliver's high-performance communication curriculum. With that, I'll go ahead also and show you Peter's book, which is a fantastic read. It's As We Speak, How to Make Your Point and Have It Stick. It's a fantastic book where I think actually Peter kind of gave away all of his secrets in this book. So I very much encourage everyone watching this to grab a copy of the book. Peter, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Ash. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is definitely my pleasure as well. And what we promised people watching in on Facebook and on social media is that we will actually unpack for sales professionals what it takes to present in high stakes situations. And what I'd love for us to do initially, kind of go through three segments. We'll take a look at how top sellers prepare to deliver an impactful, effective conversation in these high stakes situations. And then we'll also look at when it comes to delivery time, what happens. And then we'll come back and say, how do they also follow up after these meetings to make sure they tie all those pieces together and get these deals through the deal process. So with that, my first question to you is how top sellers, top communicators really get prepared to deliver in these situations?
Well, I think the way people prepare when they truly create results is by following the old adage, which is to know your customer, know the person that you're speaking to. And I think most people know that. But time and time again, you'll see somebody do the homework to find out who the customer is. And then what they do is come in and tell them all about themselves. Let me tell you all about my company. Let me tell you all about my product. Let me tell you about our culture, our values, our history, our founder, and fail to really identify what the customer's needs are. And I would suggest to you that the top sellers today aren't selling. They're having a conversation.
Yes.
They're having an authentic conversation that first and foremost demonstrates that you understand the situation that your customer is in. And the conversation starts with the pronoun you, not I.
Yes. So it's mostly audience-centered, versus being centered on what company belongs to, what products is selling and solution is selling.
It's audience-centered, but it's deeper than that. It's a demonstration of understanding the audience's current challenges. What are the risks that particular customer is facing? What are some of the challenges they're facing? You could look at this in terms of two things. All behavior is driven by two things, and two things only.
Yes. And what are
pain and pleasure.
Yeah.
So where's the pain? What are the difficulties that they may be facing in the industry, in the company, with the particular product? And what are the opportunities that they're going after? What are the hopes, the aspirations, and the goals? And if you can come out of the gate with an assessment of, so we've taken some time to look at your business, Mr. or Mrs. Customer.
Yes.
And what we've discovered is, your industry is rapidly changing. Over the past 6 months, you've merged with 2 other organizations, or you've acquired. And right now, you have a huge opportunity to do X. But some of the challenges that you're facing are Y and Z. So today, we'd like to talk to you about how we can help you reduce that risk, or how we can help you get to market faster, or how we can give you more time, and ideally reduce some of the risk of loss.
Yes.
I haven't said a thing about my product or about my company yet. I'm here to help, which is the essence of good business.
Absolutely. It definitely makes a lot of sense, because you're saying they have to have done that homework to bring it to the table and come in prepared to present it.
Well, again, I see a lot of people do the homework and then go in and say, hi, let me tell you about my company, Stand and Deliver Group, and tell you what we do, how we do it, and how great we are. Here's a few more slides about how we were started, and let me tell you about some of the customers we work with. And it's me. It's sometimes I call it I-itis.
Yes. Absolutely. Now, I know a big part of what you do is you work with a lot of organizations to help them specifically actually kind of think about their messaging. In your mind, then, how much work has to happen in the background to really develop that kind of thinking?
To develop the messaging?
Yes.
Well, it depends on what you're talking about, but probably not as much as you think. I mean, I think you need to understand what your product is and what it does, or your service. And if you've been around the block for more than a few weeks, you probably know the ins and outs of it. But rolling out a slick slogan and a pitch gets picked up within a New York second. We can hear the pitch that you've given 7 times today. So you need to understand what your product or service does and how to tailor that message to the particular situation or the particular needs of that customer.
Yes. And
in my opinion, it shouldn't be slick. It should sound a little rough around the edges. It should sound like you're creating it. You're creating this talk today for this customer for the first time.
Interesting.
And you're finding the right words. Your thoughts are like fresh picked flowers with some of the soil still on the stem there.
Yes.
Not something that's all plastic that you get in the in the hardware store.
Absolutely, because that definitely sort of is the unconventional wisdom of sorts, because a lot of people like to go in very buttoned up with everything figured out. And what you're saying is really try to come across much more genuinely and authentically than this.
Yeah, be authentic about it. I mean, if I came and I said, so we're Stand and Deliver Group, and what we do is we create influence through the spoken word.
Yeah. 3
of the core things that you just go, people turn off, and I think their antenna is up for this. They can feel it coming. So to what degree are you really listening and having a conversation? And what degree are you pulling the string like one of those dolls and sort of transmitting a pre-recorded message?
Yes. Absolutely true. I wonder, part of, and we had a conversation before, a big part, I think, of what you do, which I love, immensely, is focusing on how presenters and people delivering such high stakes conversations really think about the state that they are in. And when it comes to these meetings, specifically also from your work with other clients, what have you sort of helped them develop to really get better at managing their state? And then maybe just explain also to the audience what we mean by that.
Yeah. So when you think about communication, traditionally, we've focused almost exclusively on the content. Let me get the right words, slides, brochure, whatever it is.
Yes.
And we know that's the right place to start. What are your ideas? How are you tailoring that to the particular listener or client? The second part of communication is delivery. How are you using your body, your voice, your eyes? How are you using these means of delivering the message to shape it and craft it? Sometimes that's called executive presence.
Yes.
All too often, people have great ideas that are never heard because the delivery is flat. But what drives both of these, and the thing that too often gets overlooked, the thing that really creates the experience for the listener, is the psychological and emotional state that you're in when you're communicating.
Yes.
When you think about it, if you're in a lousy state, you're tired, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're tense, nervous, scared, as you go to reach for your own ideas, it's hard to find them. It's like the bandwidth to your brain is compromised. You sometimes you can't even remember your middle name.
Yes.
And then when you go to deliver it, you stutter, you stammer, you look at the floor, you start sweating, your heart is beating, and then if you felt bad before and you look out and they're not with you, they're getting bored, they're getting on their phones, you start to feel worse.
Yes.
And then the content gets worse and the delivery gets worse. You go into a vicious cycle. But if we can manage our state better, and I don't mean just getting over your nerves, if we borrow some of the technology from athletes or from performers who have to bring themselves to an optimum state before they show up on the field or the court. So instead of fear and anger and frustration and fatigue, they have a sense of purpose, a sense of intellectual generosity, a spirit of generosity, a sense of joy or pride in what they're doing,
Yes.
a sense of excitement. If you can bring yourself authentically to that state, it changes the quality of your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So your content gets better. You actually put your words together better.
Yes.
And then your delivery becomes that much more human, becomes warmer. Your voice starts to have lots of different colors in it. Your hands and your feet know what to do. Your eyes know how to connect. And you look out and they're with you. They're asking questions. They're laughing in the right places.
Yes.
And if you were in a good state before, it just got better. So you start to go into what we call a high performance pattern.
Yes.
The interesting thing about that triad is if you think of it like a triangle, if you take out any leg in that triad, the triangle falls down. You need the content for sure.
Yes.
You need the delivery, and you need to be in an optimum state. And that happens before you walk in the room.
Thank you for tuning in to the Top 1% Sellers podcast. Give us your suggestions and guest recommendations by emailing us at ash@connectwithash.com. Thank you also for sharing this podcast with your colleagues and social media contacts. To connect with us on LinkedIn, please send a connect request to ash@connectwithash.com. See you at our next episode. Thanks for tuning in.